If you've been following the hijinks going on in New York City on Wall Street, over 100 were arrested during and after the Flood Wall Street protests shut down much of Broadway. Flood Wall Street. And that was one of the most unusual demonstrations I've seen in some time because it actually brought to light how many people buy into the global warming and the environmental panic crisis, which doesn't exist except in the minds and the imaginations of people who are gluing together one of the most duplicitous, fraudulent movements in American history, that being the nonprofit environmental groups and organizations. There are a bunch of them. You know the names of them, most of them anyway. The Sierra Club, the Audubon Society, the World Wildlife Fund, Earth First, Greenpeace, and one of my personal most disliked organizations, the Nature Conservancy. There are certainly dedicated people who are about as dumb as some of the trees, don't want to insult the trees, that they defend. They just don't get it. They don't get that the Sierra Club and the Nature Conservancy and the others are run by, in many cases, and funded by, in many cases, the very evil corporations that they are allegedly trying to bring down. It's really quite an obscenity when you add it all together. Dumb, duplicity, and money. There is a brilliant editorial in the Washington Times called "Green Billionaires Hate Oil, but Eagerly Profit from It." That really sums it up right there. I mean, we are living in, obviously, times of hypocrisy that is so far off the scale that it's not even funny. My guest this first half an hour tonight is one of the premier writers on the Washington Times. He is Drew Johnson, a columnist and editorial writer and government waste expert at the Times. It's been years since I had anybody from the Times on the program, so it's great to have Drew on. Hello, Drew. Welcome. Can you hear me all right?
I can, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, sir. Congratulations on the editorial. That's a particularly ghastly photograph of Leonard DiCaprio and John Kerry. How did you come up with that one?
Well, I'm not the one who picks out the photographs.
Oh, I know. I'm just teasing you here.
But certainly Leonardo DiCaprio is one of you were talking about hypocrisy. I mean, when it comes to hypocrisy, he's right up there with Soros and Gore as far as people who, expect all of us to, walk instead of drive cars and hang our clothes out on a line rather than use a dryer. And he, has 6 or 8 houses and flies everywhere on private jets. So, he's one of the worst when it comes to this sort of hypocrisy.
Well, I guess we could almost call it in this culture hip-hop-cracy, because it's all hip-hop. It's a lifestyle. It's almost an ethos. It's a strange thing. Everything is predicated on product, media product, and Leonard DiCaprio is one of the biggest media products there is. I mean, he's a movie star and all the rest of it. He hip-hops all over the planet. You just brought up the ultimate example of somebody who, I mean, I'm sure Lenny hangs his clothes out on the line himself, and it's just enough to make you puke when you think about it. Tell us more about this whole fraudulent effort, really to extort from the people their trust. That's what it's really ultimately about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at what the environmental movement is doing, led by these these hypocritical companies and nonprofits, as well as some of the people that you mentioned, it's all just a power grab. I mean, some of the nonprofits you mentioned in the lead-in, the Nature Conservancy, the Sierra Club. People
really don't like the Nature Conservancy.
Yeah, I mean, so many of these groups have investments in fossil fuels. So, I mean, they have, scores of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars coming in from donors who believe this stuff. And in a lot of cases, their heart's in the right place, but they might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. And these nonprofits are getting this money, and then investing the money in fossil fuels when they're telling us we've got to wean America off fossil fuels. We can't drive cars. We can't have coal-powered electric plants, power plants. So, I mean, there's this ridiculous hypocrisy, and when you look at it more closely, are they trying to make this resource that they're investing in more scarce to drive up the price so they're actually making more money? You know, there's a lot of sort of facets to this.
Yeah, it is a multifaceted fraud. It truly is. First of all, our position here on this program is that there is not now and never will be an oil shortage. The planet is swimming in oil. There's more oil than we could ever consume. That's the upside of it. The downside of it is it's terribly polluting to the planet, our lifestyle, and all the rest of it. Okay, that's given. Global warming is the rallying cry. The climate. They're all convinced that global warming is real. Never mind the 30,000 scientists from around the world who stepped forward and signed the petition saying it's a fake. There are normal climate changes that cycle in and cycle out throughout history. My God, this planet is 4.5 billion years old. We think we know what's been going on for even a 1/1000th of that time. How many deep core ice samples can you pull to try to figure out without any question that the climate has changed like this over the years? Now, that said, certainly, again, I don't know where you guys are on the Times staff regarding military and their endeavors to control the weather and screw up the planet, but they're doing a pretty good job of it, we believe. At any rate, let's go to global warming here. But before I do, I want to go back to what you said. You really put your finger on it. Here are these organizations. Now, most of them are 509(c)(3)s, right? The nonprofits?
That's right. They're tax-deductible nonprofits.
So how in the hell can they take the money that they bilk from the public and invest it in any profit venture like petroleum or any of these traditional energy corporations? I don't get it. I don't understand how they can do that without being discovered and exposed. Now, you did a great job in your article here, but we do not see enough about the utter duplicity of these people.
Yeah, I'll give you a few examples. I mean, your least favorite group, the Nature Conservancy, I mean, all the time gives Americans guilt trips, all the time tells Americans to stop using fossil fuels, stop using oil, natural gas, quit driving, start riding a bike. Those same people have $23 million invested in the energy industry. So at the same time they're telling us not to go fill up our tanks, they literally are invested in, Exxon and people like that. Sure.
I'm so glad you wrote this story because there should be many more. I don't know if they'll let you. I don't know what the Times editorial position is, but this is a very big piece, and it ought to be picked up all over the country, and we're going to do our best to push it here for you. This is something that few Americans understand because the mainstream media is in the pocket. The mainstream media is controlled by about a handful, 6 or 7 major corporations, and they keep telling the people to lie. And they keep promoting this stuff. So I don't know how we're going to do it, but congratulations again. I was very, very happy to see this. I know I'm not alone.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah, there's, when you look at, people like Al Gore, who has been able to, I'm actually the guy who in 2007 found Al Gore's utility bills and was able to expose those that he some months spent, $2,000, $2,400 a month on his electric bill.
Oh,
20 times more electricity than the average person.
Congratulations on that. That's remarkable. I remember that story. So that was you. Good job, Drew. Good job.
Yeah, I've sort of been on this trail of hypocritical environmentalists for a while, and he's been able to kind of manipulate the media and create this sort of narrative that is completely false, but it's sort of, us, the environment and the animals and the trees and the future of the earth versus humans. And it's this sort of great this great tale like you'd see in a movie. But that's, like you said, I mean, that's really not the case. That's not what we're facing. And ultimately, the people who are pushing this narrative, the Al Gores, the George Soroses, the Tom Steyers, you look at what they all want, and they all ultimately want progressives in office, and they want political power. And they're trying to scare the pants off of Americans so that they will say, well, who can take care of the environment best? And then, you have progressive Democrats over here with the hand up. And so it's just a sort of a narrative that's been created to try to get progressives in office and ultimately to, do things like carbon taxes, put businesses companies out of business. And all that does is puts more power in the hands of government. And it's just power play when you get down to it.
Well, you're exactly right. They're all about rolling up Main Street. That's over. It's big box, Walmart, and whatever's left of the malls. The malls are dying in this country, as most people know. This whole thing about energy and environment has been so co-opted and corrupted by the controlled media. Now, the Times is not. The Times is an independent. But the mainstream media has lied to the American people, and the American people don't think much anymore. Have you ever seen, as a journalist, a professional, more, let's just call it dark matter being thrown at the people? Constantly. Wars, death, destruction, horror, betrayal, combat, Pentagon, the lies from the White House. I mean, it's endless. I don't even know where to start and stop with it's like a constant carousel that doesn't have a beginning or an end. I have never seen more pressure put on more people than the American people are sustaining right now or trying to. It's very hard. Very hard.
It is, and what's so funny about it is, by and large, there's actually a lot of good news to report. I mean, for example, like what you were saying about climate change. I mean, the fact is that the Earth has been cooling now for months and years, and obviously we've proven that so much of climate change, if not all of it, is related to sun cycles and things like that. And you don't hear that because that's not going to get people to turn on the TV at 6 o'clock every night or to buy a paper. So,
no.
It's frustrating to try to get the truth out when you're in the business that I'm in.
Those people, the billionaires, the green billionaires, you mentioned, of course, Gore and Soros, but there are so many that we don't even know their names. They are the ones behind the corporate takeover of what's left of the potable water on this planet. What aquifers they haven't destroyed with their toxic waste and all the rest of it. Big agriculture, factory farms, corporate dumping illegally and so forth in rivers, and nuclear energy, all the rest of it. We don't have much water left. That's why they can sell a bottle of water for $2, 10, 12 ounces. They're buying up control. They bought up agriculture. Monsanto runs the game now. I don't know how much GMO stuff you've done in your career, but as you well know, it's not a good thing. And now they're buying up the water. And now they're trying to put controls on people's wells. They're literally making more and more land unavailable to the people under the guise of protecting it. One reason I mentioned the Nature Conservancy, I'm originally from Santa Barbara, and there are the Channel Islands off the Southern California coast, and off Santa Barbara, 23 miles away is a 21-mile-long island, gorgeous island, Santa Cruz Island. And the Nature Conservancy got in there and bought 85% of it, then bought out the remaining 15%. And you can't go out there except when you sign up, jump through the hoops, and you can go out on a special guided tour. And they're doing this all over the country. It's not just there, but we watched that whole thing happen, and it was pretty disgusting.